All right, so the SAT has been a major topic of discussion in the past few years, ever since we had that thing, the pandemic. During the pandemic is when a lot of colleges went test optional. But now as we're moving away from that and we're in 2025, a lot of students are wondering, is the SAT making a comeback? The short answer is yes, but the long answer is not at all of them. So in this video, we're going to be talking about which schools are bringing back standardized testing and which schools are not. I'm also going to share some advice on whether or not you should take the SAT, and if a school is still test optional, should you submit it. But first, hello, my name is Dylan Nellis. I am a college admissions coach and the founder of NextGen Admit. We help high-achieving students just like you create strong and authentic college applications that get accepted to their dream schools. I know in high school, and especially during your college app season, there are a lot of things you have to manage, right? There's so many tasks and assignments that it can often feel like your brain is going to quite literally explode. I know what this was like because I went through that, but I didn't have a really great system of managing all of my tasks and deadlines and assignments until now. I can't believe it took me so long to discover and use this tool, but I just wanted to share this free resource that I put together for you guys. This is not a sponsored video. I just genuinely love this task management platform so much, and I use it for managing my entire business. It's called ClickUp, and it's like if a task management platform and your calendar and Notion had a baby. So I made this template to help you manage your college application tasks, and I'm giving it to you completely for free. I named it the Admissions Assistant, and you can grab it at nextgenadmit.com/AA. AA stands for Admissions Assistant. Okay, so now that you've got your free task management platform, you can take notes during this video when I talk about the SAT requirements at different schools. Because if you want to keep your college apps organized, you want to have a row for each school that you're applying to and a column that states their SAT and ACT policies. And now, let's get into the policies. Here are some of the schools that are now requiring standardized testing scores for 2025 and beyond. We have Harvard University, Brown University, Dartmouth, Yale, Cornell, the California Institute of Technology, the University of Texas at Austin, and Stanford University. I'll be honest, I was shocked. I did not want to hear this from Stanford. And I do want to mention a little bit of the fine print for some of these schools. For example, Yale. Now, if you see me looking this way, I'm looking at my computer. So for Yale, they said that they will require scores from all applicants while also adding AP and IB exams to the list of accepted tests alongside the SAT and ACT. Another interesting thing to note about Caltech is now requiring students to submit either the SAT or ACT, although the writing section of the ACT is not required. Okay, so those were some of the schools bringing it back. Now, my question was, why are they doing this? I thought that the pandemic and the switch to test optional was a wake-up call for a lot of these colleges to be like, oh, actually, these standardized tests, the SAT and ACT, are not actually great predictors of a student's success in college. Because there have been studies done that these standardized tests will more accurately predict a student's background than their future success. Because obviously, different students and families have access to different resources. Not everyone has access to SAT prep. Not everyone has access to an SAT testing center. So now we're going to hear from the colleges themselves what they have to say about that and why they are bringing it back. So these colleges are still arguing that a standardized test provides an objective assessment of a student's potential. It is true that high school grades and GPA can vary so much depending on the high school that the student went to, and so colleges claim that a standardized test would help admissions officers compare students from different backgrounds more fairly. There was data found during the time where test optional policies were widespread because of the pandemic, and that data found that students who submitted test scores often performed better in college than those who did not. Of course, we have to understand that this is correlation and not causation, but these findings are actually what prompted schools like Dartmouth and Harvard to reinstate the requirement for the SAT. Now, I thought this point was interesting. Some colleges that are reinstating standardized testing claimed that it supports underprivileged students. So they're saying that while it seems like the SAT disadvantages low-income students, these colleges are saying it does the opposite. They argue that standardized tests provides a pathway for students at under-resourced schools to stand out, especially when they might not have access to certain AP classes or extracurricular opportunities. I think that's an interesting take, but I'm not fully sold on it. Now, here's an argument that I do kind of understand. There is so much grade inflation and variability in high school curriculums, especially during the pandemic, and I'm sure you can relate to this, that there was a lot of grade inflation. Maybe you would barely do any work or do the bare minimum and you would still get pretty high grades because times were tough and parents would get real mad at teachers if they didn't give their students high grades. I can also speak from my own personal experience before the pandemic. When I was in high school, there were some classes, like honors physics, where I didn't really learn that much. And our school wasn't the best in terms of their academic offerings, especially in a class like physics. Guys, it was an art school, but I still got an A in that class. But I know that I was not prepared at all to take physics in college. Thank God I never had to do that though. So as you can see here, the grades that students get at their high schools might not reflect their academic capabilities. And so for highly selective colleges, where most of the people applying to those schools have really strong grades, this creates a challenge. How can admissions officers truly differentiate students? So in response to this, colleges are reinstating the standardized testing requirement to introduce an additional checkpoint to assess academic performance. The bottom line is that these colleges want to make sure that they're admitting students who can handle and succeed in their rigorous academic programs. I want to share this direct quote from the president of UT Austin, Jay Hartzell. He said, "Our experience during the test optional period reinforced that standardized testing is a valuable tool for deciding who is admitted and making sure those students are placed in majors that are the best fit. Also, with an abundance of high school GPAs surrounding 4.0, especially among our auto admits, an SAT or SAT score is a proven differentiator that is in each student's and the university's best interest." Yeah, so that point makes the most sense to me out of all the different ways the colleges have tried to justify themselves. It's a tough situation, and college admissions has a long way to go to be considered equitable. Now, there are still a lot of schools that are staying test optional, so let's talk about that. For example, we have New York University, NYU. They're still allowing students the choice whether or not to submit their SAT or ACT scores. So NYU will actually allow students to submit other ways to assess academic performance, such as an AP score or a graded paper. We also have the University of Chicago, which actually started the test optional policy back in 2018, so before the pandemic, and they have just continued to stand by that ever since. And then we have the University of California schools. So this includes schools like UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC San Diego, UC Santa Cruz. The whole UC California system remains test blind, and that's different than test optional. That means they won't even look at your test scores. So even if you submit your SAT and ACT, they're not going to look. Now, let's talk about whether or not you should take the SAT, especially if you're still planning on applying to some of these test optional schools. I would recommend still taking the SAT if and only if you will actually put in the work to learn the strategy and get a high score, right? Because if you're just taking it to take it and you don't care at all, and then you get a bad score, you're not going to end up submitting it. So why did you waste your time? A high GPA score can strengthen your application, so I would recommend taking the SAT, and if you get a high score, then I would recommend submitting that to these schools, even if they're test optional. Now, what constitutes a high score? So take a look at the admission statistics for the schools that you're applying to, and look at the 50th percentile and above of the typical standardized test scores that students admitted to that university had, right? So if the 50th percentile is a 1400, then you want to get at least a 1400 or above. And if you're below that, then I don't recommend submitting your scores if it's a test optional school. Keep in mind, every school's admission statistics are different, so you really, really want to pay attention to what it is for every single school and make that decision on whether or not to submit your scores depending on the school and their statistics. By the way, we put together all of the admission statistics for like the top 50 schools. You can check all of that out at nextgenadmit.com/blog. We've created blog posts that go through each of these colleges' common data sets, so you don't have to. It's also still good to try to get a high SAT score because you can qualify for merit scholarships. So if you're choosing to take the test or you have no choice at all because they're reinstating it, you want to make sure that you are prepping early so that you can get a competitive score. Do not just wing it, guys. Like, the college admissions process is getting so competitive and just more competitive every year. So you want to make sure that you are learning the strategy to stand out. Now, I do want to mention that the SAT is just one component of your application, and a lot of students will have high scores. Sorry, it's true. A lot of students will have high SAT scores, high grades, so those things, those numbers are not going to help you stand out, and they're not going to tell an admissions officer who you are as a person. Remember, you're a person, you're not a statistic. And I know you're here, you clicked on this video because you care about submitting a top-notch college application to your dream schools. And I want to make that dream possible for you. So I actually put together a full hour-long masterclass on the top school admissions formula, and I'm going to give it to you for free. This is seriously what I wish that I had when I was applying to college. I was so stressed, I was so overwhelmed, I was running out of time because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I just wished that I had someone or something to give me a roadmap so I could understand if I was even moving in the right direction. And this is that roadmap that I am now gifting to you. You can check it out for free at nextgenadmit.com/masterclass. I promise you're gonna get so much insight from this, and you might even get some ideas for your college essay. I've had students implement this strategy and not only get accepted to their top schools like Stanford and Harvard, but they've also earned over $20,000 in merit scholarships. Seriously, if you have a really good college application, that can give you so much more money, guys. I don't think you understand how important this is. Like, yes, it'll get you where you want to go, but also you can get money from it. Win-win. So go check out that masterclass because you're not going to regret it. You might regret not watching it though, because you're missing out on the strategy. But all right, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that clarified things regarding the SAT. It was interesting to hear their reasoning. I'm curious what you guys thought about their reasoning for reinstating it. Let me know in the comments below. Also, let me know what kinds of videos you want to see from me next. I am constantly creating new content for you guys, and I want to make this process a breeze. I know the college application process is typically seen as the worst thing you'll go through in your life, but I'm here to turn that narrative around. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.